I am a young man with SPMI, severe and persistent mental illness. Although SPMI is never talked about at social dinner parties, there are millions of us out there. We are the young adults who have dropped out of college to live in the basements of our parents' houses. We are the middle-aged bachelors living in filthy one-room apartments in low-rent neighborhoods. We are the old homeless who have been surviving on the streets for decades. We stink. We are weird. We offend polite people's sensibilities.
It has been estimated by the Surgeon General of the United States that between 1/4 and 1/5 of our population has some level of mental illness. Sooner or later, virtually everyone will encounter mental illness in themselves, their family, their workplace, school, or just out in public.
I had been going through the Hennepin County Detention Center as though they had a revolving door. So you're the police guy, you're a woman, and you pull up, and there I am again, doing my thing. And, you know, you throw me in the back seat of your squad car, and you said, "What, Charles, is your problem?" Whose problem is it? I think it's our problem.
So, what is our problem? Mental illness is not a problem, but an illness not unlike others, such as heart disease. Our problem is that we as a society still need to learn how to deal effectively with the illness. There's often very little or no collaboration between different institutions, and basically there is not enough communication and understanding between all the individuals who are directly affected by mental illness. The answer to our problem is better communication and more collaboration.
All rise. This court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Richard Hopper presiding.
Morning, everyone. You can be seated.
In Hennepin County, Minnesota, which includes Minneapolis and some of its suburbs, a special court was established several years ago to deal with individuals with mental illness. Mental health court has become a national model.
I think there has been a long-standing stigma in society regarding mental health. And our state hospital system probably allowed people to continue that because people were basically just sent away to a hospital and never seen again. That has changed, of course, to the point where we have a number of these people now living in the community. And that's been good, but it's also been bad. It's been bad in the sense that they end up getting arrested sometimes, and because the criminal justice system is a place of last resort. It's been good in the sense that people involved in all aspects of the system have been touched personally by someone with mental illness. That's what I have found. And so they're more willing and more ready to cooperate.
Even family members who have cared for their mentally ill relatives for many years rarely understand the first thing about mental illness. Truth be told, sometimes even I don't understand my own illness.
Andrew Gadke began to exhibit symptoms of schizophrenia while away at college. It took a couple of years to get a correct diagnosis and a couple of more years to get the correct medications. Meanwhile, he couldn't find any books that would help him understand the illness.
A lot of people with severe and persistent mental illness, they don't like to talk about it, of course, and they don't share with even with their family members what's going through their heads. And so I thought, well, if I share what's going through my head, even and make myself open despite whatever possible consequences there could be because of the stigma, I could really help family members and people. And so that's my goal, and that's what I want to accomplish with this book.
The pain of depression, people ask you, is on a scale of 1 to 10, what is it? Well, it can be a 20. When every pore in your body hurts, you can't imagine how painful depression can be. Every pore is hurting. All you can do is just sit there and just moan and groan and want to die. All you want it to do is end. It is the most painful thing in the world.
First of all, I want to thank you for taking your time out of your schedule. My name is Art Thomas. I am the City Security Manager for Minneapolis. We have many employees who are in a position of dealing with the public. And as a result, many of those individuals are difficult customers, and they display different behaviors that some of our employees sometimes don't know how to deal with. And we thought there was a need to have this de-escalation training and maybe give our employees some skills and some things they can use to help themselves as well as the customer.
This is bigger than that.
I need to ask you, because there are other people who are working out here.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yes?
I need to ask you to keep your voice down a little, because it's going to disturb them from their work. I'm happy to work with you.
The disturbance is going to go deeper than that. Okay? This is a disturbance that is of the utmost importance, okay? I am trying to save these people, all right? It's not my fault if all of a sudden they get a little annoyed in the middle of their day. All right? This is going to save their lives.
De-escalation training sessions like this one are presented by the Barbara Schneider Foundation, a Minnesota-based nonprofit organization named after a woman with a mental health diagnosis who was fatally shot after a confrontation with the police in the year 2000. The Barbara Schneider Foundation is dedicated to the mission of eliminating the criminalization of people with mental illness through proactive training and education. There is a growing awareness of this issue, and the media is beginning to pay attention, as this recent article indicates. It described a 4-day Barbara Schneider Foundation Crisis Intervention Team training session with corrections and detention staff from Hennepin County. The concept of crisis intervention teams is a law enforcement mental health crisis response developed by the Memphis, Tennessee Police Department in 1988. It uses a de-escalation strategy.
Caller is his doctor who received some information that the male is having some depression issues and he's possibly suicidal.
Car 36 all headed that call. So.
Law enforcement and emergency responders are the ones who are called when the mentally ill are in crisis. But the emphasis needs to shift towards creating more community collaborations that can prevent crisis. These efforts need to include family, friends, healthcare providers, and employers, just to name a few. At present, there is no one way of developing these collaborations. These teams are evolving organically as more people understand what the issues are and what type of support is needed to help a person with mental illness achieve and maintain stability. The long journey that brought stability to Charles Jensen's life is a very revealing story of trial and error that illustrates the need for strong communication and collaboration. Charles became symptomatic with late-onset mental illness in 1989. 13 years later, after 89 trips to jail and several hospital stays, he still had no control over his illness. He was on probation and was restricted from leaving Minnesota without permission. One day, his medications just weren't working. He became delusional and found himself driving in Wisconsin.
I got very downcast, and I drove like I almost wanted to kill myself. So I'm driving the car, and I go from the gravel part over here to the gravel part over here. And at one point, I remember looking up, and there was a stream of traffic behind me as far as I could see.
After that incident, his probation officer suggested he be sent to St. Peter Regional Treatment Center. They ended all his previous medications and started all over. As he progressed in his treatment, he was carefully observed by a team of specialists.
There was one team meeting where I was involved, and they said, we would like you to be part of this. And they shared amongst themselves, you know, how the meds, this is what we're observing, this is not. And I, you know, how many?
Making good choices.
I think it's the only time in my life that when they said team, that I really was a member of the team. And that is huge.
How are they working from?
And they came up with the right diagnosis, which is bipolar with psychotic features. They got that part very right. And the medications to deal with that. It was in '02, and I've had no problems with the law or anything since. Not to say I'm cured, it's still a struggle being mentally ill. But I'd rather be where I'm in struggling than be back in jail or having any of those horror stories to live through again.
My name is Doreen Robinson. I'm a probation officer in Hennepin County, and that is where I met Charles and worked with him in the early 90s. The collaboration with people working with Charles, and I would say that included primarily a social worker, the court system too, other individuals, his therapists, but I think that was huge. I think that it helped Charles find a way to move forward, and I think it also gave him back some of his feelings of self-esteem and that he could do it.
Whatever your involvement with a person who has mental illness might be, you can collaborate with others to provide better support for that individual and yourself. It all begins with communication.
Everybody has a piece of the story. Everybody has an idea of what needs to happen. So we need to listen to each other and talk to each other. And in doing that, the most important thing is to respect that each of us has something important to say, and that we really pay attention to that.
The most important thing that professionals can do to maintain the communication and the team approach is to ask for, insist, demand from the client permission to communicate among each other, and then do it.
The bottom line, collaboration can happen anywhere. It happens with two people, right? You collaborate. So think about what a rural community has that an urban community does not have. They have a close-knit feel often that you can capitalize on by drawing key community leaders together, drawing religious organizations together. You would probably have many volunteers, people willing to step up to help address a need, especially if they see the need on any level in their community. And frankly, mental health problems, mental illness is everywhere.
And you know what my biggest regret with this is? That I never have yet to get back to some of these people and say, you know, thank you. You changed the course of my life. And I don't know that you get thanked enough for that. You really do make a difference.